We've always wondered how Sasuke would regain his Rinnegan, and Chapter 24 of Boruto Tubu Vortex finally confirmed our suspicions. This came in the form of Jura using the power of the Ten Tails in a very intriguing way, which was somewhat different from what we initially thought was possible. So how does this power lead to the resurrection of Sasuke's Rinnegan? And why is it tied to the return of Sasuke himself? Well, it all goes back to the power of the Ten Tails, and how it affects the body of its Jinchuriki.
死ぬところだったぜ、こやつめ。
You see, Jura was able to heal his body by summoning the roots of the Ten Tails from Jigen's dimension, or at least that's what we think happened. I say this because there hasn't been any confirmation as to where this base is located, which opens up three possibilities. One is that the base is in Jigen's dimension and Jura summoned the roots using the claw marks. Option 2 is that the base was never in Jigen's dimension and it's somewhere deep within the planet itself. Or maybe it's option 3, which is that these roots aren't the same roots from that base. I covered this in a prior video, but it's entirely possible that Jura is able to use the roots left behind by the prior Ten Tails, which are spread across the entire planet. In fact, there could be multiple mini versions of the divine tree growing beneath the Earth's surface that spawned from the root system, which by the way is backed up by both a flashback from Momoshiki and a panel with Kaguya. I'm not gonna go over that again, of course, so you guys can go watch that video to get the full details. The point is that this power was able to heal significant damages to Hidari, restore his body, replace Jura's leg, and yes, he was also able to restore Jura's Rinnegan. Now this of course is relevant to Sasuke because regardless of where this power comes from, Jura was able to manifest that power on this planet. And given the fact that we never saw any claw marks on the ground and the emergence of the roots caused even more dust to form, it more so seems as if they came from the planet itself. This now of course bolsters the argument of Sasuke regaining his Rinnegan because not only is Sasuke encased within the body of a claw grime, that claw grime is connected to the planet. Also, this even further bolsters the claim that the Shinju base is located deep within the planet itself. We've always wondered how the chakra collected by the claw grimes was transmitted to the Ten Tails in order to form the Shinju. The claw grime doesn't move after transforming into a defective divine tree, and the reason why the victims are still alive is because they're using their chakra, which means a constant stream of that person's chakra is continuously being sent to the base itself. But how? Well, if my theory is correct, once these claw grimes take a victim and transform into a defective divine tree, its roots then connect to the root system of the Ten Tails embedded within the planet. That person's energy is then transmitted to that base, thus forming a thorn soul bulb. These same roots can then be used for healing purposes, using the natural energy it's taken from the planet. Now I know you guys are probably saying, well kiddo, the Ten Tails was sealed away, so why would the root system of the Ten Tails remain active? Well, the funny thing about this is that the possibility of this happening was somewhat hinted at in Naruto. You see, after Naruto sealed away the husk of the Ten Tails alongside Kaguya, the roots of the Ten Tails on the planet remained active. Yes, Naruto and Sasuke had to release the infinite Tsukuyomi for the visible roots to set free the captives and wither away. If they hadn't done that, the roots would have remained active and continued to absorb the chakra of the humans, even absent of the Jubi's main body. This implies that the roots can function without it, and possibly continue doing so to a lesser extent over the years, which also further goes to support my theory about the root sprouts. Now, Mr. Sasuke himself is connected to this root system, which means even absent of his left eye and even his left hand literally being covered by this divine tree, it would have still been able to heal him. In fact, I'd argue that Sasuke's missing parts being covered is less so foreshadowing and more so Ikimoto trying to hide the fact that those body parts have already been restored, which is why Hidari, despite being a clone of Sasuke, has those body parts. I mean, Mamushi didn't spawn hair on his head, so clearly the Shinju doesn't manifest certain things the main body didn't possess, to some extent. Now I will say that I could be wrong here because some would argue that it does make sense for a claw grime to heal Sasuke's body, especially when they can't even heal themselves. We've seen them be taken out by simple sword slashes by Boruto that weren't even deep in some cases. Even the Shinju themselves have never shown the ability to heal themselves. In every instance where Shinju has recovered from mild to extensive damages, they always go back to the base itself for assistance from the root system. Even Jura himself, the supposed main body of the Ten Tails, hasn't shown the ability to heal himself. He also relied on the root system. This, of course, despite what he said about their superior healing ability as Shinju's, which surpasses that of humans and the Jinchuriki. Yet we haven't seen him do anything beyond Naruto healing from a Chidori through his chest at the age of 12, while Hidari needed the roots to heal from a milder wound. So, if the Shinju and the Clawgrimes can't heal themselves, what was Jura talking about, and how would Sasuke regain his Rinnegan? Well, this all goes back to nature energy. See, people tend to forget this, but Boruto's Ten Tails hasn't absorbed the energy of a planet as yet. It first needs to consume an Otsutsuki and transform into a true divine tree to begin that process. So at this point in time, the Ten Tails doesn't consist of natural energy, it just has pure chakra. The chakra of the Ten Tails, Ishiki's chakra, Code's, and even Shibai's to some extent due to Code's claw marks, which of course came from Shibai's cells. That would also explain why the certain exploit of the Ten Tails Jinchuriki being weak to nature energy was never mentioned or taken advantage of, because this only applied to the past Ten Tails because it was a mass of natural energy. This was outright stated by Naruto in, well, Naruto. So this Ten Tails that doesn't have natural energy doesn't have the ability to heal itself, and it needs the roots of the past Ten Tails that is still connected to the planet to heal. But why is that? Well, that is because nature energy is needed to fuel that ability. You see, nature energy itself always possessed the healing factor to some extent, regardless of how it was used. Take Naruto's Sage Mode for example. It's stated that one of the perks of Sage Mode is the ability to heal quickly. And though there's no way to gauge the extent of it since you can't tell whether Naruto is healing from Sage Mode or the Nine Tails, the perk itself still remains. The same applies to Jugo. This character had the ability to regenerate any part of his body since his Kekkei Genkai allowed him to passively absorb nature energy. This ability was so broken that he was able to restore Sasuke's organs in seconds by transferring his nature-infused cells into his body, which caused him to get younger. The same applies to the Ten Tails Jinchuriki from the war. Madara was able to regenerate his entire left half with no problem and even spawned a new lower half. I mean, Hashirama has the most powerful healing ability in the entire verse, and his main power is using wood release, and of course that's the closest thing to nature one could get. In all these cases, the person had the ability to manipulate natural energy, which is the only difference between them and the Shinju. So it must be the case that the Shinju can't self-heal because they don't possess nature energy, nor do they have the ability to absorb it themselves. Thus they need to use the root system of the prior Ten Tails. The same would apply to the Clawgrams as well, but the trick is that all of this changes once they become a tree and form a connection with the root system on the planet. It can then use that power to heal whatever it's connected to, whether it's intentional or not. So it all makes sense when you put it that way, but there's one major issue with this analysis, which is that the Shinjus should indeed have natural energy. As I said before, the Shinjus were possibly created using a combination of the root system and whatever this black box is. And if the root system contains nature energy, they should possess that power as well. So it might be a massive fault in the theory itself, or it could be the case that they do possess some nature energy but not enough for it to matter. As opposed to the prior Ten Tails that was primarily nature energy, thus explaining its superior healing capabilities. But of course, that's just my theory. Now, what about Sasuke's Rinnegan? Well, I'd say we're probably looking at a far more powerful Sasuke, because not only would this Sasuke have his Rinnegan back, he's also receiving a power amp. One way to do it, of course, would be to have him absorb Hidari's Thorn Soul Bulb and evolving into something else, part Biju and part man, similar to Himawari. This could possibly give Sasuke not just one Rinnegan, but two, along with the amp the body of the Shinju itself provides. That of course is just one option. Now they could go a different route and give Sasuke a power amp through the root system itself, along with the new Rinnegan that's even stronger than it was before. By the way, Sasuke's entire body should also be significantly stronger as well. People seem to forget this, but Sasuke has been connected to this power source for over 2 years. All his cells should be juiced with nature energy to the point that his body composition itself could have been modified. I wouldn't be surprised if this new Sasuke easily scaled above Jigen level, to be honest, especially given where the power system currently is. Also, I almost forgot to mention this, but my theory about there being a root system that's separate from the 10 Tails itself is actually supported in Boruto's manga. If you guys go back to chapter 13, I believe, in Tubu Vortex, there's this interaction between Boruto and Kashin Koji, where it tells Boruto that the 10 Tails will break free of Code's control and evolve in a new way. They will likely show up before us as multiple Divine Tree people who possess individual minds. It would be ideal to dispose of 10 Tails' root and branch before that. So the root and branch Koji refers to here could be referring to the root system, and the branch is the actual 10 Tails that was in Jigen's dimension. But of course, there is a counter to this, and I always provide counters to my theories in my videos, which is that root and branch is actually a phrase that's used to express the thorough or radical nature of a process or operation. So it could be the case that Koji was just simply saying, yo, we need to do this thoroughly, okay? And that's fine. But this could also be a double entendre, and Ikimoto, by the way, loves using these things, double entendres, so it could be the case that it means both, and we should interpret it as such, similar to the Blue Eyes prophecy. But yeah, with that said guys, if you guys liked it, drop a like down below. If you guys want to support the channel, consider becoming a member or joining me on Patreon. The option is up to you. But yeah, I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.